there, welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about Kid Detective, which is a new film out, so it's going to be non-spoiler. I'm not going to reveal the ending or anything like that. This is more of an advertisement to go watch this film. So we'll have a brief video. You'll be happy to know. So Kid Detective is a film that came out in 2020 during the pandemic. It's directed and written by Evan Morgan, stars Adam Brody and Sophie Nélisse. And it came and went, and it had a weird poster that didn't look like much like anything. It was one of those ideas I thought was interesting, so I got it on streaming and then left it there for about 2 years before finally watching it. It's that kind of film where you think it goes cheap really early, then you buy it and you think, I'll watch it at some point, and you forget about it, and then when you watch it, you think, I should have watched this much earlier. But the idea is, there's this guy, Abe, who was a detective as a child in the local area. He was a guy who was really smart. He was their little Sherlock Holmes who could figure stuff out, figure out who stole stuff, who did this, who did that. He was just clued into the whole world of his world at the time. Then when he's 12 or 13 or maybe 14, the person helping him, who was his secretary, this girl who helped him out, she disappears. And no one knows what happened to her. No one has a clue what happened. And then we cut to years later, and Abe's now just past 30. He's a bit of a wash-up. He's still a detective, but he's only using his detective skills for basic stuff. No one respects him anymore. He's a bit of a drunk. He's into fights. And his family's wishing he would give up this detective thing and just go and get a normal job somewhere. They're embarrassed by him. He's embarrassed by himself as well. He's very cynical about the world. He's played by Adam Brody, who you've probably seen in a bunch of stuff. He was in TV a lot, and he's been in a lot of things in different films. He's very good in this film. And he's just like suffering through life, really. And he gets a case. A kid has been killed in the local area, has been stabbed multiple times. And his girlfriend wants to know what happened. The police have investigated and found nothing. Or they're not saying anything, but they're pretty stalled. But no one's going to ask Abe now, because one, it's a murder case, and two, Abe's not very reliable anymore. But his girlfriend, of this guy, is so fed up of the police, not doing anything, that she comes to this guy who she's probably warned off against not seeing him and not asking for help from him. And she has to bully him into actually helping her, because he knows the case is too big for him. But she kind of guilt trips him and pushes him forward and gets him to start doing the case. So this girl, played by Sophie Nélisse, she's like, in the film, she's a teenager. It's an actress who's a clean actress who's done a bunch of stuff. And basically it's the relationship between these two people as the case gets investigated slowly but surely. And like any detective story, you have red herrings, you have, the detective making mistakes, your detective doubting himself. It's a quirky detective film made by people who love detective films. You may have seen Zero Effect years ago. Jake Kasdan did it with Bill Pullman. If you like that film, you probably like this one. You had the Sherlock TV show, which had an element of this. It was a bit more smart arse than this film is. But at its best, it shares a kind of similar DNA to this. I mean, detective stories are detective stories. You have a detective who might be a bit smart arse. They try to solve a case, and the detective has his traumas that affect how he solves the case, or doesn't solve the case. You have other precedents like Long Goodbye, the Robert Altman film, where you've got Philip Marlowe stumbling through a case and trying to figure out who did it. So you've got lots of different things in this film that you've seen before. The biggest one I would definitely say is Shane Black stuff like Nice Guys and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. This has less action in it, but it's the same thing of people talking and people not quite working out their place in the world, and people painfully aware that they're not quite living up to potential. and there's a kind of heart to it that's a bit eccentric. But this is a much more low-key thing than the Shane Black stuff. But even though Shane Black, by American film standards of like action movies, is pretty low-key, this is even lower-key. But if you like those films, you'll probably like this film. It's got that kind of same feel to it. And it's that same charm. And also, I would say, I'm not going to say anything about what's happening in the second half, but the actual resolution is satisfying. It takes a while to get there, and halfway through you won't be seeing where it's heading. It goes down these different paths, and it's not making things obvious to where it's going to head. But when you get there, it is a satisfying ending. And the characters are satisfying as you see them progress, as you see their flaws, as you see their strengths. There's lots of things that pay off and come back to stuff you've seen before in the film earlier on, and it's placed in context, and there's lots of little character nuances that really work. So it is a very satisfying film. Again, it's one of those films you can't say much about without ruining the plot, but things pay off in interesting ways, things work in interesting ways. The characterization is very solid, and it's well shot for a low budget film. Obviously professionals here making sure the director knew how to do his job. You know, the director knows what kind of film he's making, and he's a lot of professional around him. You can tell, like, this is a professionally put together film. There's no amateurism involved. Probably low budget, but everything's covered well. Everyone knows what they're doing. The performances of both the leads and the supporting players all work. So it's a well put together film. You might like it, you might not, but it's a film that is well put together. But if you like those kind of weird detective stories, you know, which you get, I mean, even you get something like Knives Out recently, which is more of a Agatha Christie type of thing, but it's still a detective story. If you like these new modern detective stories, you'll probably like this one. Another one that it reminds me of a little bit is Brick, the Ryan Johnson early one. I like this one better though, because Brick seemed a bit too smart ass for its own good. This one is much more human, and even though he was a kid detective, it's not as obnoxious as Brick could be sometimes. So that's me for this film. I'm not going to cover it in like great depth because I'm trying to get people to go watch it. So hope you enjoyed the video. Go see the film. That's me for now. Goodbye.